class 3. Now, we'll proceed to the next rows. Turn to page 30. Page 30. The feast. So, the feast is about a person. It's about two villages. The feast is about two villages. Feast means what? Feast means when you're going to a wedding party, birthday party, okay? People will cook food and they will have many snacks and different type of foods. That's called feast. So, anonymous means nobody knows who wrote this story. So, long time ago there were two villages. One village was up and one village was down. Upper village and down village. It must have been in the hill station, in the hilly place, not in the plain. So in the plains you cannot have the villages one up and one down. Okay? In the hilly places, you can only have one house on top, one house down because it is hilly. Okay? Now, there was a man called, his name was Anasi. Anansi or Anasi, you can call it. It seems to be an African story, somewhere in the tribes. Now, the story tells us about being greedy. You should not be greedy. Whatever you get, you should be contented. You should be happy with what you get. So, this person, Anasi, doesn't belong to any village. He doesn't belong to the upper village. He doesn't belong to the lower village. So whenever there's a feast in the village, like here also they have feasts in the village, there will be some puja or some festival and they will have some celebration feast in the village. Same there also, there is a village where this person stayed. Okay, so one day there was a feast in both village. The same day the feast was there. So he thought where to go. He wants to go to both the feasts, but he cannot be in two places at one time. He cannot be in two places. He can't be there and there. So he was thinking. He was racking his head. Racking his head means thinking, planning what to do, how to do. I want to eat there and I want to eat there. So some people are like that. They can't help it. Okay. So try not to be too greedy. If you be too greedy, something will happen. Okay? Whatever you get, be happy. Now, so he called his sons. He called both his sons. And his sons were obedient. Intikuma is one of the sons and Kyukusin and Intikuma. So they are African type of names. Okay? And he tied a rope and he sent one son to the upper village and one son to the lower village. And he said, when the feast begins there, you pull the rope and then I will go eat there. And when the feast begins there, you pull the rope, I will go and eat there. So it just happened, the feast began at the same time. 3 o'clock maybe the feast was, maybe 6 o'clock, maybe 12 o'clock. So at the same time, one of the sons pulled the rope. And he tied the rope to his waist. And they kept pulling the rope and they were wondering why my father is not coming. And both of them pulling the rope at the same time. So, a human being, only God can be in 10 places at one time. But human beings can't be in 2 places at one time. Okay? You cannot be in 2 places at one time. You can only serve one master. You can only do one job. You can't do 2 things at one time. So this is also another story. You can't eat food plus watch television. You can't concentrate. Either you eat food and watch television. So you should not do 2 things at one time. If you're reading, you read. If you're eating, you eat. Okay? If you're playing, you play. So don't try to do 2 things at one time. But sometimes people try to do it. So eventually the feast ended at the top and the feast ended in the bottom. So they wanted to know what happened to the father. When they went to their father at the end, exhausted, they got tired pulling. And they found very strange. People was also wondering what these people are doing. The boys were embarrassed, but they were good boys. They listened to their father, they are obedient. Even if their father was stupid, some children would listen to their father and mother because they are obedient, Even if their parents are greedy or very stupid also, still they will listen. That is called good boys. They were good boys. And when they went, the middle of his body where the ropes had been tightened was thin as a reed, but the above and below the waist he had puffed out like a balloon. He had puffed out like a balloon and he became a spider. The sad truth was greedy Anansi had turned into a spider. So it is just a story. So the story tells you, from these stories we learn that whatever you should share your sweets, you should share with others, and you should not be greedy. If you be greedy, if you eat too much, you go to some feast and not eat too much, you may get food poisoning, or you may get sick, stomach pain and all. That's why people go to doctors. Why they keep eating this, eating that. When you eat, you must know, eat to a limit. Okay? So don't try to be greedy, whether it's eating, whether it's toys, or whether buying something. So like that, the story is about. So we go through the reading. I have done the reading. Try to follow the reading on your own. Sometimes, because it's a very long story, sometimes I also get bored reading because there's no class. So you will find some changes, but you try to follow the reading. Listen to the reading first, after that put your fingers under the Bible. Then read along with the reading. You can take 2-3 breaks. You can take 2-3 breaks. It's a very long story. Poetry you can read at one. And then read on your own. You must try to read on your own. So some of the words you cannot pronounce. It's in the audio SND. Good day.
Hated to work, and so he would go to both the upper village and the lower village in turn and pretend to be part of the village. One day, both the villagers decided to have a feast on the same day. The greedy Anansi thought of a way to enjoy both the feasts. He tied a strong rope to his middle and gave its ends to his 2 sons. Now, each of you go to a different village. When the feast starts there, tug your end of the rope to tell me the feast has started there. But the feast started at the same time in both the villages. Hurry up, father, shouted his sons loudly. If you don't, there will be no food left. And both his sons started to tug at the same time. But Anansi never turned up at either village to enjoy the sumptuous feast. Puzzled at this, his sons dropped the ropes and went back home to see why their father had not come. A strange sight met their eyes. The tight ropes around Anansi's middle had squeezed him completely out of shape. The middle of his body, where the ropes had tightened, was thin as a reed, but above and below the waist, he had puffed out like a pitcher. Oh my! They saw that greedy Anansi had become a spider.